exercises, if they would care to inform the committee a bit more about that meeting. Nagyamanak, Madam Chair.
Yes, Yusek Galvez, please. Secretary Manalo, General Centino, Senator Tolentino
Chair,
would like to say
perhaps
something.
with indulgence, Senator Tiveros, perhaps the military establishment can explain the regular process of having an annual tabletop exercise discussion and the forthcoming grand Balikatan exercise. So it has to be explained.
Senator Tolentino, by way of information, this is the very first time that the Balikatan meeting was conducted in Northern Luzon. It's the first time we were ever called upon to discuss this.
So perhaps you can explain.
It's not regular at all.
Maybe we can have the chief of staff.
Yes,
say-
General Centino, please, we'd appreciate some
but,
information.
can I?
Yes,
I-
Yusek
I
Galvez.
One, I would like to thank the governor because we are also asking for formal talks. I think we have a incoming meeting with Governor Mamba, but we have already sent some feelers for an informal consultation with him. And I
Yes,
believe
we appreciate his concern because it has appeared repeatedly in the media, not one but two EDCA sites or bases, depending on which press release you read, will be located in Cagayan. Dalawa po yung Cagayan. Kaya abalang-abala po kami lahat.
yes, ma'am. And in fact, the Balikatan Exercises Directorate is going around the different provinces, and they consulted some of our LGU units, including the mayors and also the barangay captains, that where these Balikatan exercises will undertaken. I will just answer, the statement of Governor Mamba. Yes, it might be true that the U.S. Is not present on 2017, 2018 typhoons that you had. Normally sa NDRIMC kasi, hindi po talaga tayo nag-allow ng foreign deployments unless we asked for and there are only few cases that we asked for Ondoy, Ramil, and Yolanda. And also during the Balikatan exercises in Leyte, wherein there is a massive landslide that the US
Southern Leyte. Southern Leyte.
Southern
St.
Leyte.
Bernard.
St. Bernard, wherein the U.S. forces really help us a lot in there. So there are only few cases that we asked because it's the presidential decision whether we will ask for help. Like for example, in Turkey, we deployed forces because the Turkish government asked for help because I think the massive destruction in Turkey, and we are so happy to deploy 80 persons of them, and we received them again yesterday. And that is the arrangement that we had with other countries based on INSRAG and international deployment plan that we had. So that's why I believe during those days we were not able to see any foreign countries in the area because we did not ask because we can already respond. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, the local government units are really capable of doing the response.
I think the query arises, sir, because it's very explicit in EDCA Article 1 that it's for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Andon sa EDCA po, that's the reason we inquire. If that's the purported reason for the location of this site/bases, why is it that they have never been active in this area of humanitarian relief?
Madam, we are our EDCA sites as we have established in the 5 established area. We don't have at the northern portion.
Hindi, pero ang liwa-liwanag nandyan sa EDCA po. Kaya hindi naman sa naniningil kami, kundi nagtataka lang po kami. Bakit palaging disaster ang sinasabi? Di naman sila sumisipot. Pero pagbasahin ng EDCA at yung pakay nitong additional sites, talagang humanitarian relief. Hindi naman nila ginagawa yun eh.
Mama, the primary consideration of the EDCA site, as we have said, is to cater the Philippine-US bilateral exercises. And also, what we call the projected forward base for logistic hub that we will be having. And also,
Well, let me call po Article 1 of EDCA, and that is to promote interoperability, number one, to address short-term capability gaps, to promote long-term modernization, to maintain and develop additional maritime security, maritime domain awareness, and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Sir, maliwanag po yung Article 1, dapat may humanitarian sana.
Yes, yes.
Eh wala naman tayo na kita, wala naman na kaming ramdaman na tulong mula sa kanila. Kaya nagtataka lang po kami.
that's why we are now, we are possibly looking at the possibility to open up the, because we have
Nagtataka rin po kami dahil kasi yung pagpili nitong mga sites, lahat nasa Northern Luzon. So, inaamin po ba natin na yung Taiwan ang siyang pakay at tinutukoy nito at hindi yung deterrence sa West Philippine Sea at yung pagtatanggol ng lupain na Pilipino?
Ma'am, I cannot categorically answer the question.
Pero yung pagpili o yung paghiwatig ng mga intended sites, maliwanag na first line of defense kung magkaroon ng atake sa Taiwan, di po ba? Maliwanag na hindi naman siya western sector.
As we have said earlier, the EDCA sites that we had, including the 5 EDCA sites, it will be used primarily for our bilateral use in training and also for contingencies.
For our bilateral?
Exercises and trainings and also our...
Is there a criteria for these bilateral exercises? Why do we choose to have them where we have them?
Maybe we can have the Chief of Staff explain the yearly training that we have aside from the Balikatan and other training that we are conducting with other countries. With we have a BFA agreement.
Yes, General Centino, please.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. The Balikatan exercises is an annual exercise that we have with the United States Armed Forces. We have done this the past several years, and part of the planning process in preparing for this exercises is the consultation with the local officials where the exercises will be held.
That's right, General.
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
local officials, including Governor Mamba, has already
Yes, ma'am.
manifested that, in fact, there's been no consultation whatsoever.
Yeah, the matter of having it an official meeting, I would say that the planners for this exercise have went through it's really for the site, the exercise sites, not for the EDCA areas, ma'am. The Balikatan exercises areas, the training areas.
Okay, so will there be any consultation for the EDCA sites? There's
Well-
no consultation for the Balikatan sites, but there's going to be consultation for the EDCA site. I'm confused, sir.
Yun nga po, ma'am, yung EDCA sites that has been mentioned, additional sites, have yet to be approved.
Because of the consultation.
The announcement was that there would be 2 EDCA sites in Cagayan, and there's been no consultation yet. You are saying that this is false. There will be no EDCA sites in Cagayan, Isabela, or even Zambales. Is that correct?
Wala naman pong na-announce po, ma'am, from our side.
Okay, Senator Ontiveros, please.
Yamanak, Madam Chair. General, yung Balikatan exercises, we engage in them with the US under the VFA, tama po ba? And the MDT and the Mutual Defense Treaty. Wala po bang provisions either ng MDT or ng VFA na hindi pa fully implemented, which if fully implemented, ay pwedeng maiwasang magdagdag ng EDCA sites to the current 4 or 5 sites?
This agreement from the MDT was signed in 1951, the BFA in 1998, the EDCA was signed in 2014. These are agreements or obligations that we have to abide. So, as part of the EDCA the agreement, nakalaan din po na part of these activities will support our treaty obligations. And that is really the defense of this country. I can speak to the AFP. Ang role po namin is to come up with plans, contingencies, and identifying possible scenarios. Like we have estimates of the situation. We know probably where contingencies may happen, and that's why part of this process is identifying perhaps areas that a probable scenario would likely happen.
I understand, General. At the same time, yung treaty obligations natin sa ilalim ng NDT at saka ng VFA are as much treaty obligations as our treaty obligations under EDCA. So ang hinahanap ko lang po sa hearing natin ay yung sense of proportionality na baka naman kaya po nating pakinabangan pa yung mga unimplemented or not fully implemented provisions ng mga earlier treaties enough para palakasin yung capacity natin to push back peacefully but effectively vis-a-vis China in the West Philippine Sea na atin namang prioridad in terms of our national defense without necessarily expanding yung geographical scope ng EDCA, which may or may not be prioritizing yung West Philippine Sea. Baka may ibang prioridad pa po.
Ma'am, the situation is evolving. The security environment is evolving. As we speak, nagbabago po yung landscape. And it's important that we are abreast with what's happening. And that's why we have to prepare accordingly. Kaya siguro po, while the MDT was signed way before we were born, perhaps, no? Kaya, yeah. Kaya po, kailangan din po na, like, as discussed earlier about.
That's 1951.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, General.
Yes, General.
Yun nga po, ma'am, we have to be responsive to the current security threat. That's why we're coming up with contingency plans to make sure that we are ready to defend.
General,
We
it's very
also want
simple.
to, sorry,
I'm
sorry, Madam Chair, just one last point po.
Yes,
Certainly
Senator.
po, we too in the Senate, we want to be responsive. And at the same time, pinangahawakan ko pa rin yung usapin ng proportionality, which you in the armed forces eminently understand. Hindi ko pa po pinapasok sa pag-uusap natin yung usapin ng multilateralism, maybe later in the hearing. Salamat, General. Agyamanak, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ontiveros. General Centino, you repeatedly make mention of the word contingencies. By contingencies, are you referring to Taiwan?
Not necessarily, ma'am.
Given that the Balikatan suddenly has shifted to northern Luzon, given that we are hearing of 4 sites all in northern Luzon, hence it is all in Taiwan, and that is the new evolving contingency, is that correct?
Well, it doesn't have to be Taiwan. We have to consider threats. That's assumptions that we're making. As I can only speak of the armed forces, ma'am.
Gentlemen, what's our fight with Taiwan? What is our fight with Taiwan? I don't understand.
May I defer this to the Secretary?
Secretary Galvez, before you
Sure.
proceed, again, this is a matter of nomenclature. General Centeno should have explained the difference between natural hazard contingency, military contingency, or even economic contingency. And that's why dapat nag-uusap kayo ng DFA para isa lang. Kaya maguguluhan si Chairman Jaime Marcos, yung sagot nyo.
Palagay ko naguguluhan rin sila.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
You look at the totality of our complete preparedness to collective defense and also to disasters, because considering that the Philippines is the most vulnerable on climate change. We'll try to look at it at the comprehensive and strategic perspective of the whole territory that we had. Balikatan exercises is being done annually, and it is being done rotationally on the different regions. We have already completed many Balikatan exercises in Central Luzon and also in Southern Luzon. And even we have a parcel of joint training we call it Salaknib, I believe, in the areas of Mindanao. In fact, right now we have joint exercises with Australia in 6 infantry division, meaning the contingency that we are having is basically full scale, meaning whole of nation and whole of government approach. At the same time, it also covers the whole territory that we had, including all the island. So the reason why we choose the northern part for Balikatan exercises, because there is the tendency of really really our preparation really for disaster is very significant, considering that we have seen a lot of typhoons, a lot of floodings, a lot of earthquakes happening in the country. In fact, now we are monitoring several earthquakes in Region 5 and in Region 11. And also we have
But you're not conducting Barikatan exercises in Region 5 or Region 11 or Region 8 for that matter.
we
They're
have-
all in Region 1.
Yes, ma'am. The Balikatan exercises is
Two.
being planned of 1 year cycle. So we have already had some sort of MDB, CB activities that we have overtaken last 2022 pa po, ma'am. So ang ano po natin, mahirap po tayo magbago dahil kasi ang ano natin is ang cycle po ng Balikatan is almost yung planning cycle niya is almost 2 years. Meron tayong naka-allocated na areas, and we believe yung Northern Luzon hindi pa tayo nagbabalikatan exercises dito sa area na to. Normally ang ating
at that time.
Yes, I think it was 2008,
2008.
Yusek Galvez. It wasn't 2014. 2013 was Yolanda. 2008, hindi na nga namin maalala at hindi pa kami nakaupo nun.
That was Ramil and Ondoy. Yung ano na yun, ma'am, yung time na yun talaga na mas...
Wala po sa Cagayan o Ilocos Norte yon.
Yung Ramil, ma'am, Ramil.
Okay, Governor Mamba, please.
Yeah, anyway, yung sitasabi dito kasi kung humanitarian, ngayon lang ginagawa ng Amerikano sa toilet paper, no? At ang nag-deliver nga sa amin sarhento, kaya hindi ako pumunta. Pupunta rin sila, ibigay-bigay ng kung ano-anong eskwela na maliliit. Only daw, sa totoo lang po, na nakakadimin as if we could not buy those things by our own. They really want to capacitate us. Dapat noon pa naman, hindi naman ngayon lang. Well, anyway, any armed force from the Philippines is always welcome. We have one brigade now of Marines. We welcome them. They did so much for us. Kung sa disaster lang po, siguro we have one of the best disaster response. We have one Marine. No? We have our first super typhoon, no? 4 lang po namatay. Yung second super typhoon namin, 5 lang po namatay. And then we have the mega flood. We could do it on our own. Just capacitate us. Pero yung bibigyan kami ng 2 maliliit na bangka sa second hand pa ng mga Amerikano. It demeans us so much. Hindi po sa kailangan po namin dito ang Armed Forces of the Philippines. They've been very cooperative with us. They've been very good to us. I never heard any complaint against our people, against them. No, they have precision po. Kasi our people, even in our anti-insurgency campaign, wawala na ho insurgency dito. But please, no, do not ram into our throats what is not acceptable to us because binobola-bola lang po tayo eh. Hindi na po totoo ito. They came to me, no? Noong sinabi kong ayaw ko ng live fire, pupunta yung mga taga-US Embassy sa akin, tatlong colonel, isang political officer, at saka labor attaché. Sinasabi nila na investment, titignan daw yung investment, para akong tanga. Kala nila, hindi ko sila naintindihan. But you know, the 3 military people agreed with me when I told them, kayo nag-umpisa, sabi ko, engage China. Now, we're trying to contain them. Shouldn't we do something about this too? Sabi ko sa kanila, you know, hindi po sa China never invaded us, never conquered us, never. Wala ko kami problema sa kanila. Hanggang ngayon po, totoo lang. They're very helpful. I never sought their help during our disasters. But their rights came in. No, through yung mga Federation of Chinese Chamber, papadala sila ng rice kung ano-ano. Ang dami nila binibigay sa amin during our disasters. They are our neighbors. Please, do not let us tell them that they are our enemies because of the United States of America. Let them have their own war. But we can never be an enemy to our neighbor. Kinukuha nyo yung Hapon na kasama natin. Paano yung Hapon? Sila yung nag-conquer sa atin dun. Bakit naman Hapon ang kausap natin? Sa akin lang po. Alam nyo,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. They're now trying to pit kahit yung mga mayors, pinupunta nung sino-sino dyan. Susuportahan daw nila yung EDCA. Can you imagine that? They are trying to pit yung local government unit against. I think, let us not divide our people. Let us have one stand on this. Now, you could bring all the assets, all the help of America to us, but not the soldiers of America to us. Yun lang po, pakiusap namin. No foreign forces in Cagayan. Yun lang po, para we will have sleepless nights. Pag ganyan po, kami po yung pinakamalapit. Tatamaan po kami kahit na anong mangyari. Pero kung hindi kami sasali dyan, hindi po kami tatamaan. I'm sure. Because China needs us too. And we need them too. Including that of Taiwan, including that of South Korea, including that of Japan. This is our time, especially in Northern Luzon. Yumaman po ang aming mga neighbors. Please, huwag natin disturbohin naman ito. I think this is our time. Sobrang na ho ang hirap namin. Wala ho kaming nakita sa mga Amerikano na tumulong sa amin dito. Pasensya lang po, sinasabi ko lang po yung nararamdaman ng totoong Cagayano na nagmamalasakit sa Cagayan. Hello po, maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Governor Mamba. I join you in your impassioned plea for peace in Northern Luzon. As you all know very well, we Ilocanos are the nation's soldiers. We will never shirk our duty, and certainly we are privileged and proud to die for our country. But we are not volunteering to fight wars that are not our own. It is that simple po. With that, I recognize both our minority leader and our resource person who's been frantically raising his hand, Mr. George C.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yes, please, minority leader po.
Sige, thank you po. Our duty to defend our country does not flow from any treaty. Tama. It's our duty. So yung mga MDT, ang pag-interpret ko dyan, it's the duty of our treaty partner to mutually help us in our defense, our duty to mutually help the treaty partner in their defense. Medyo limited pa nga from attack from the Pacific. Actually, yung nakasulat doon eh. So hence, if our treaty partner in an MDT has imposed upon itself its obligation to defend a certain territory, are we also supposed to be involved in his or in their imposition on themselves to defend a certain territory? Wala na po yun because that's not defending now the treaty partner, di ba? Ibang usapan na po yun. So, siguro medyo kung preparation ito for a certain contingency anticipated by our treaty partner pursuant to its own obligation imposed upon itself to defend a certain territory, wala na po yan sa spirit and even the letter and the coverage of the MDT. I think that is my opinion, Madam Chair. So, pag-isipan natin mabuti ito because I'm a chess player and I know the use of a pawn, you know. And I also play not the Queen's Gambit but the King's Gambit, which you sacrifice pawns, Madam Chair. I mean, kaya mag-ingat po tayo rito and I'm alarmed na of the mention of this grand balikatan, the grandest of them all. I mean, at this time na ang hirap ng geopolitical situation, economic ang problema natin, recession, inflation, etc. And the Philippines, although we love the US, 80% siguro sa atin pro-American, we are not at the same economic level or standing or even structure. Yung economy nila, some claim na this is an economy based on war. Although we like to identify with the Americans, our economy is not based on war. So tandaan po natin yan. But additional point na lang, Madam Chair, although nagpaparinig tayo sa mga Amerikano to help us during times of calamities and disasters, and then our chairperson has cited the basis in EDCA, paragraph 3 of Article 1, page 3. I agree with the interpretation of our senior USEC. Okay. Kailangan pa rin magpaalam. Ang EDCA or any treaty will not be a basis for unilateral action of the treaty or agreement partner to act within the scope of that agreement because they are a military power. Kailangan magpaalam or kailangan hiningi ang tulong nila. So ang purpose ng EDCA, naka-preposition yung supplies. Pag hiningi ang tulong nila, therefore mas malapit ang pinanggalingan ng kailangan nilang supplies. Imbis na manggaling sa West Coast nila, nandito na sa Pilipinas. But ganun po, I agree with you. Sana ganun din ang interpretation ng lahat, no? No unilateral decision making, unilateral action, respect the sovereignty of the Philippines. Tayo ang hihingi ng tulong kasi decision natin, kailangan natin ng tulong. Tumulong sila o hindi, decision naman po nila yun. Huwag din tayo magtampo. Kung hindi rin sila in the position to help, walang tampuhan. Ganun po yun because we also respect their capabilities and their sovereignty. So I hope, Madam Chair, I have not added to the confusion because as stated by Senator Tolentino, I have not added to the confusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wise words, Senator Pimentel. George C. was next on the roster.
Yes, salamat ho, Chairman.
Before he,
Can I be excused, Madam Chair?
yes, of course.
I think I have to attend to some judges, applicants interview,
That's fine.
JBC. But I hope this
That's fine.
meeting will end up in what's good for the country. I hope this meeting ends up in what's good for the country. Thank you,
very
Madam Chair.
much. Thank you very much, Senator Tolentino. Senator Antiveros, is there something, Mr. C then?
Salamat ho, Madam Chairman, Senator Hontiveros, at mga kaibigan. At sa military, we know that how much sacrifice and so much help at wala masyadong nagiging complaint. Everybody has good words only about military. But tungkol sa yon gustong mangyari dyan sa North Philippines, maaring hindi natin alam, but because of our research, mukhang sa US alam na nila anong gusto nilang gawin. So we would like to show some document, example in the media in the US, kung anong balak nilang gawin, no? Baka pwedeng i-project diyan, no? Na CNAS, the CNAS,
Flying from the Philippines.
CNAS, which is the US, one of the US strategic organizations, has a simulated battle in which they have the flights coming out of North Luzon. So baka hindi natin alam, pero that is already part of the US studies, no?
We're trying
So
in Taiwan.
if you point that out, I don't know if they asked. I wonder if they asked us that about using North Luzon as the base from which they will fly their planes. Apart from that, siguro maaari nating masabi, we welcome all kinds of assistance for calamities and so on. But in the last several calamities, we could consider that China has been giving more than 10 times more than the US. Of course, we have a dispute with China. And actually, in the case of Marawi, the U.S. blocked the shipments of arms and munitions to the Philippines when the Marawi, I'm sure many of you were involved. And then it was China and Russia that gave the means which allowed us to settle the Marawi siege within 8 months. No, so yan lang ho to bring up na.
Very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
C. Yes, we're aware of material like this deriving from the United States and other allies. And the question has arisen time and again, if an armed conflict breaks out between the U.S. and another country, can the EDCA sites in northern Luzon or elsewhere in the Philippines be used as staging areas where the U.S. can launch attacks or counterattacks? Because it's very clear under Article 1, as quoted by Senator Pimentel, that there is a catch-all phrase that will allow all sorts of activities related to those above, provided there's some kind of an agreement. Kasagsagan ng digmaan, wala na sigurong panahon na idadaan pa yan sa Kongreso, magkakaroon pa ng konsultasyon. Palagay ko, biglaan, madadali tayo niyan. There's also explicit provision for refueling and reloading of aircraft with missile and munitions. Is that correct? So refueling lang yan, no other provisions, ano? Tama po ba ang pagkaintindi namin? There's an express allowance in the EDCA for the refueling of aircraft. Are we to assume that they can also gather supplies, more munitions, more missiles even at the same time?
Refueling depots, ma'am, already completed.
Oo, pero kung magkarga sila ng mortar, halimbawa, kasama po ba yun sa pagkain, sa gamit, at iba pa? Yes, Yusek Galvez, please.
Ma'am, these are the principles that we adhere in ensuring that the national interests are protected in advance for the EDCA. Number one is strict compliance with the Philippine Constitution, laws, and jurisprudence.
And Yusek Galvez, it's a simple question. Beyond refueling, what else can be loaded on the aircraft leaving the agreed upon locations under EDCA po?
Ang ano po natin, ma'am,
Yung simple lang kasi 'di ba may explicit provision na pwede silang mag-refuel. Habang nag-gas up sila, maglalagay rin ng tubig, ng pagkain, ng kung ano-ano. Pwede po ba nung mortar maglagay din? Missiles?
ang ano po natin, ma'am,
munitions?
ang ano po natin the MDT and the mutual agreement that we had with the US is that we have a mutual commitment. If we have mutual commitment, for example, if the US committed that they will help us during attack. At the same time, if US is also in attack, we are more than willing to help them in terms of providing some support, for example, logistic bases, and also allowing them to use the EDCA sites, provided that nuclear weapons are prohibited. That's the provisions that we had.
Yes,
And,
but that's a very broad allowance right
and
there.
also, there is a requirement for Philippine consent for all the activities.
Thank you. Yes, the concern is that if the concern is even if these sites aren't used to launch attacks, isn't it so that all these sites, as asserted by General Centino, are in fact military camps? Hence, are they also legitimate military targets? If you were the commander-in-chief of a country at war with the United States, wouldn't you attempt to cut off supplies and equipment of their army located here in the Philippines, in northern Luzon, in EDCA sites?
Even without the invoking the MDT, ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am, but the camps are always targets.
The MDT only comes into play as,
Yes, ma'am. So-
as explained by Senator Pimentel. When there's
Yeah.
an invasionary force,
Yeah.
an external attack.
A military camp will always be a target for the adversary.
However, no.
Iba kasi, di ba, nagpre-preposition ng Amerika kasi gusto nila umatake. Eh, tayo naman ang madadali. Ganun lang kasimple po yun eh.
I believe
So it's a legitimate, so these EDCA sites here in the Philippines will all be legitimate military targets, di po ba?
kung titingnan nyo, ma'am, yung ng MDT, basically, ang ng MDT is for the peaceful, nakalagay doon sa sa MDT natin, I forgot, Ang pinakaano talaga niyan is not, hindi tayo magiging attacker, Tayo mismo yung parang tinatawag nating, we are preventing,
Sik po?
Sir, actually, said, Madam, I have read the content of the MDT. Ang nandun pa rin talaga, sir. But definitely, ang natin doon, we are having that MDT purposely for defense. For defense, not for preparing for war. For defense.
Yes, Senator
Yung first
Pimentel.
whereas clause nga ng MDT for peace.
For peace ang ma'am, nakita ko doon. Kasi
Isn't it for peace?
actually yung niyan, yung isang niyan, yung first article niyan is really
Hindi na
to
siya
maintain peace.
mutual defense and world peace di ba? Parang it's preparation for attack Parang naiba yata. Hindi na MDT yun
Actually, ma'am, kung titingnan natin yung spirit ng MDT is really to deter war. Talagang natin, and also to prevent other forces from attacking us. Meaning, with the modernization of our MDT, meaning if we are modernized with the help of our allies, and also we have a collective defense, our primary purpose is
Saying
really...
we're modernizing the MDT, it hasn't been touched since 1951.
Actually, madam, that's the commitment right now. Meaning...
Yes, but you haven't seen it yet.
Yes, madam. We are trying to really make that commitment. That considering that the possibility of what is happening right now, we want to really be prepared for that. That's why the MDT, if you look at the preamble, the first statement is really for peace.
Okay, Senator Antiveros, peace.
Yamanak, Madam Chair. Listening po sa mga iba't ibang inputs ng mga resource persons, hindi pa ako convinced na naghahanda ang US to attack. Pero palagay ko, at kung tayo US, siguro tayo rin naghahanda to defend yung sa tingin nila importanteng teritoryo dito sa Asia. And it's not necessarily the Philippines. Tayo, mga Pilipino, priority natin West Philippine Sea. Baka iba, at gusto nating depensahan siya. Baka iba dun sa priority ng US. And may kay siya, tulad natin, may kay tayo to define our defense priorities. So, para mas lamanan pa ng isa pang punto yung gusto kong ipasok na wag tayong malimita sa mag-uusap tungkol sa EDCA lang, but look at a possibly broader perspective, multilateralism, na baka doon maka-generate tayo ng other alternatives. Madam Chair, na-interesado ako dun sa isang punto ni Sec. Charlie kanina, binanggit nila may joint military exercises tayo with Australia. So, in line with yung spirit nung tinanong ko kanina, nasimot na ba yung mga possibilities sa MDT at sa VFA without necessarily adding to the geographical footprint ng EDCA sa ngayon? Hindi ba alternative din na matindi tayo tulad sa US at sa Australia, magkaroon ng mga balikatan sa mga ibang ASEAN countries, simula sa Vietnam, Indonesia, Brunei, sa navies nila, kung gusto rin nilang mag-enforce ng rules-based solution sa tension sa China, sa buong South China Sea, including on our part sa West Philippine Sea. Ba't hindi tayo magdagdag ng balikatan sa mga miyembro ng Quad at ibang naval powers na gusto ring mag-ensure ng rights-based o rules-based approach sa buong South China Sea without necessarily adding EDCA sites on land? Hindi ba pwede tayo magdagdag at mag-maintain ng exercises, multilateral exercises on the water na hindi natin kailangang magdagdag ng bilateral sites on land?
Pero
Madam Chair.
yes, pero sa totoo lang, we've moved forward from Balikatan. The truth is, joint patrols of the US and the Philippines have already been announced. That's far beyond Balikatan and the MDT. I'd like to recognize
Sorry, Madam Chair, huling
Senator-
dagdag lang.
Ay,
So, with the indulgence of Senador Roy, dun sa line of questioning and thinking aloud ko kanina, na if the situation in the region escalates, will our islands in the West Philippine Sea be secure? Kahit kung sa US mas priority nila yung ibang bahagi ng Asia, kaya nila ginagawa itong sa EDCA. Pero tayo, kung priority natin yung security ng mga isla natin sa West Philippine Sea, Kalayaan, Ayungin at iba pa. So isn't it time for us to consolidate in the West Philippine Sea, bukod pa sa EDCA, Madam Chair? Salamat sa Madam Chair at Senador Roy.
Yes, thank you. If you'd like to respond, I'll thereafter recognize Senator De La Rosa as well as Dr. Sasot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ma'am, on the suggestion of Your Honors, Madam Chairman, on the suggestion of Senator Risa on multilateralism, actually yan ma'am yan ang maybe way forward natin. Considering that we have only two countries that we have BFA, and we are exploring for the possible Japan reciprocal access agreement, and hopefully nag-sign na po tayo ng TOR sa HADR, and that will be our jumping board for us to have that bilateral agreement. And later on, maybe we can increase that as we have different dialogues, different ASEAN and also Pacific dialogue. It has been proven that trilateral cooperation or quadrilateral cooperation is more manageable than multilateralism. That's why we are exploring the possibility of having a trilateral agreement with the US and Australia, because we have the BFA, and later maybe we can have the RAA with Japan, and considering also that Japan is our major strategic partner in terms of both on HADR and also in economic partnership. We are really driving at the possibility of really expanding those alliances together with South Korea and other like-minded countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and ASEAN. And we have told them that our centrality is ASEAN centrality, and we have exposed to them that our trilateral agreement with Indonesia, Malaysia have paid a successful agreement wherein we have a joint patrols in the Sulu Sea and Celebes Sea, that we were able to protect our common interests in the common zones. And that's the reason why that we are having some sort of bilateral balikatan exercises. Balikatan exercises doesn't only on the land, it's also on the air and Navy-to-Navy engagement. And joint patrols is one of our area of exploration, considering that we have very, very effective on joint patrols in 2014, together with Australia and also we have U.S. joint patrols so that we can show the flag in those territorial waters and also in our EEZ waters. So that's the main objective of the joint patrol, so that we can show our flag that right is ours.
And lastly on this point, Madam Chair, although arguable na, well, yeah, mas manageable ang tri or quadrilateral kaysa multilateral security arrangements.
Yes.
Pero given yung pag-flesh out ni Sec. Charlie about these possibilities, baka pwede rin nating pag-isipan, i-accelerate yung pag-generate ng ganyang mga dagdag at mas at broader na mga multilateral or security arrangements, at baka pwedeng magpreno ng konti dun sa EDCA. Ito ang mas bilisan, pwedeng magmenor dito sa dagdag EDCA size. Just a thought, Madam Chair.
We will look at that, ma'am.
Yes,
Salamat.
thank you very much, Yusek Galvez, and we proceed to Senator De La Rosa, please, and thereafter to Dr. Sasot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alam nyo, magpapalabasan na lang tayo dito ng sama ng loob dahil nga pag dumating yung pambubuli ng China, tayo galit na galit sa China, wala tayong ibang iniisip kung kanino tayo hingi ng tulong. And the closest ally that we can think of is Amerika. Di ba? Dapat silang tutulong sa atin. Ngayon, ito namang Amerika, marami mga previous incidents na pinapahirapan rin tayo, ginigipitin tayo. Like for example, yung na-cite kanina ng ating isang resource speaker during Marawi Siege, yung procurement namin sa PNP ng rifles, hinarang ng Amerika. Hindi sila tumulong. Nagamit sana namin yun sa Marawi Siege. Ngayon, kaya mag-ingat tayo paano tayo magamit at magpagamit sa kanila. At the same time, kung magpagamit tayo, dapat magamit rin natin sila. Hindi dapat one way. Hindi ito dapat one way na maalala lang namin ang Pilipinas, kayo ngayong may problema sa Taiwan, pwede palang gamitin na launching pad itong Northern Luzon para sa counter-attack natin doon sa Taiwan. Kung na-invade ang Taiwan by China, pwede magamit ang Pilipinas. Itong mga Amerikano rin dapat, ipaparating rin nyo, sir, kayo naman nag-uusap palagi. Parating rin ninyo na kaya yung mga tao minsan nagiging negative sa inyo dahil lumalabas na parang user kayo. Magagamit lang kayo pag kailangan nyo kami. Pero panahon ng kinakailangan kayo, hindi man kayo tumutulong. Pero the fact remains, kahit na meron tayong ganong hinanakit sa kanila, the fact remains na sila pa rin ang kinakailangan talaga natin kapag tayo binubuli ng China. Wala tayong ibang mapuntahan kundi Amerika. Yun lang. Okay bang bawi ko, sir? Okay ba? Bumawi ako konti? Okay lang? Ha? gusto mo na mag-report sa Amerika eh. So, si Bato galit sa inyo. Parang gano'n ay. Pero wala tayong ibang pupuntahan kundi Amerika, di ba? Galit na galit tayo sa pambubuli ng China. Kanino tayo hingi ng tulong? Amerika. Di ba? Pero yun nga lang, sabihan nyo yung Amerikana kayo, halata masyadong user kayo. Maisip lang nyo kami kapag may looming threat dyan sa Taiwan na dagdagan nyo, halata masyadong move ninyo na gusto nyo, Northern Luzon, lagyan ng additional EDCA sites. Yun lang, mas maganda yung, kaya siguro negative yung ibang tao doon sa Northern Luzon sa kanila dahil kulang sila sa information na operation na unahan sila ng China. Baka China nandun na, advance na doon, nangangampanya na yung China doon sa Northern Luzon na nagbibiro lang ako, gobyerno wala yan. Wala yan, Gob. Ang akin lang, ba't ang Amerika, klaruhin nila yung purpose na dito, na hindi kami gagamit sa inyo. Hindi kayong gagamit sa inyo. Wala kaming kung na gamitin kayo na pagkatapos gamitin kayo, iiwan namin kayo. O dapat walang ganunan. Yun lang, Gob, hindi ko kwan yun, Gob, na pinapasaya ko lang yung kwan dito ngayon, yung mood dito, kaya masyadong seryoso yung aming hearing dito. Yun lang, sir, parating yung sa Amerika na ganun. Huwag nyo kami masyadong gamitin. At alam nyo, we are also a thinking mamalya. Ayaw rin namin mapapagamit ng kami mapapasubo. Yun lang, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I think, unfortunately, Secretary Manalo needs to leave. I think you wanted to do a final statement. Is there a concluding response? I think he needs to leave. Can we just make him?
No, 5 minutes.
Yes?
I can,
Yes, okay. Wait, nalito na ako. Teka. Yes po.
so,
Where do we go? Okay, Risa.
Agyamanak, Madam Chair. Just a quick question.
Governor
Maybe-
Mamba also has raised his hand, and actually on the roster is really Sasot. In any case, Senator Risa.
In case the SEC would like to include this in his closing remarks, how can the Philippines pursue a more multilateral approach to resolving security concerns in the region? Salamat, Sec. Agyamanak, Madam Chair.
thank you. Madam Chair, my apologies. I have to leave very soon to attend to the visit of PM Anwar, who's going to meet the president this afternoon. First on the query of Senator Ontiveros, yes, I think precisely that is the approach we're taking now. Multilateral, which cooperation. Not only in terms of, let's say, multi, but even tripartite or joint with a number of our partners. It's already been stated at the last visit of the president's visit to Japan. We also entered into talks with Japan on how we can enhance defense cooperation with Japan. And Japan is certainly taking, in our view, a more active role now in the region. And we think it's really a very good opportunity to explore how we can build up on our cooperation, not only in terms of military cooperation, but also on economic and other areas where we can enhance our security. So that's being done with Australia. We're also very much in touch now with Australia. And in terms of our ASEAN partners, we're also in talks with Singapore. And we will also embark on discussions with Vietnam and other countries in the region, all with the intention of trying to increase our security, not only in terms of military and defense, but also through economic security. So that's definitely the approach that we are adopting now, and as well as, of course, with traditional partners like the United States. I just wanted, Madam Chair, just to say last points on our discussion on EDCA. What I can simply say is that on EDCA, of the existing 5 projects, a number of them already include humanitarian and disaster relief projects. So that's very much in sight. What I just wanted to stress that when it comes to the EDCA, our main control really lies on the fact that any project or any kind of location will have to be agreed upon by mutual agreement. So our control lies on where it's located and also on the projects. Any kind of project will also have to be on the basis of mutual agreement. So I think in that sense, there is control over some of the other aspects of the agreement. But I just wanted to add that by saying that we do have control, especially in the most important parts, location and the nature of the project. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Secretary Manalo, and thank you for participating in this extended executive session hearing today. Certainly, we'd like to look at possible amendments to the EDCA, given that it's due for extension April next year. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to recognize Governor Mamba once again and Sasot over there. Governor Mamba, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Your Honor. I was just because when the political officer of the U.S. Embassy came to me together with 3 military men and the economic attaché, as if he was insisting to me that I was talking with Chinese officials. Never. As if we could not decide on our own. No Chinese official ever talked to me about EDCA, about Taiwan, about all of this. That is why,
Agbiag ka, Gobernador, agbiag.
dyan lang ako, talaga decision mi laing nito. Iba, di pa nagkita ang nakikita po namin, just leave us where we are today. No? Para wag na ho nating guluhin na ito. No? And we see a lot of partnership with our neighbors in the future. No? Ayun lang po yumaman yung China eh. Ayun lang po nakikipagkaibigan sa amin para makapasok din sila at ma-develop din ang aming agriculture and our aquaculture and everything here. And they want to buy it all also for their food security. And so, wala ho kami na ibibenta na produkto namin sa Metro Manila except rice and corn. And I think this is our time. So, sana maintindihan nyo where we are coming from. No? We feel that the future of our region is connecting with our neighbors up north. From the very start, no, in 2016, when I became governor, I said, let's look northward, let's move northward, let's connect northward. And that is why we're trying to dredge our rivers so that we could open our seaports and reconnect with our neighbors up north. Ito po yung nakikita kasi namin. And I think this could be our gateway to a more progressive Philippines, to a more progressive Cagayan, to a more progressive North. Kaya, again, Madam Chairperson, please be with us here. I know you are really with us here because this is the future of the North. This is the future of the Ilocanos too. And it's the future of even the entire Luzon and the entire Philippines. So, maraming salamat po for inviting us here. Wala ho. I never talk with any Chinese about all of these things. When I went to Alawag to attend their court, they shunned from talking about this. That's why, sabi ko, hindi magulo itong mga kausap natin. Tinitignan naman nila siguro yung interest din natin. Katulad din nila, tinitignan din natin yung interest nila. Yan po, maraming salamat.
Gob, thank you, Gob. But pareho tayo ha. Hindi tayo pro-China, hindi tayo pro-America, pro-Filipino tayo ha. Pro-Filipino. Hindi lang pro-Ilocano. Pro-Filipino tayo. Kaya bahala sila. Basta importante pro-Filipino tayo. Thank you, Gob. Salamat, Gob, sa pagpalabas mo. Thank you, Gob.
Sir, yun sinabi ko sa kanila na pumunta sila sa akin. I am not pro-American, I am not pro-China. I am pro-Cagayan and pro-Philippines. No, I'm just, I'm so impressed with what the president did. No, when he had an agreement with President Xi Jinping of continuously, no, talking about the maritime disputes. Alam ko po ito mga boundaries kasi because ang boundary ko po ay Kalingay na Payaw. Pinag-aawayan po ang boundary pero never na pinag-awayan namin. Never na nagpapatayan kami sa boundary. Pinag-uusapan po namin. Of course, there are bullying. No? There will be skirmishes. But we do not fight over it because we could co-manage it. You know, I was a member of the cabinet of President Noynoy noon when we discussed this. Kaya sinasabi ko, China offered bilateral talks kaagad noon. But we voted that it will become a multilateral talk. No? And this is where we are now. No? But I think, let us go back. No? Siguro pwede tayo umatras ng konti para makuha natin ito. At kung sana walang nakikialam na iba, sa tingin ko, no? Taiwan and China will have their own way of solving this problem. Huwag lang natin i-escalate pa. Bakit pa tayo makikasali kasi? Yun lang po. Ang nakikita ko kasi. No, because nakita naman natin si President Marcos at President Philippine. Sabi ba, let's continuously talk about it. Let's continuously talk about it, about the maritime dispute. So that means no quarrel over it. Yun lang po. And that alone, that made us where we are today. That is our position today too. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Gov. And we call on Sasot at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ma'am, I would just like to expand the discussion on this one kasi ang nakakalimutan natin kung ano ba ang Pilipinas sa Amerika. Ang Pilipinas po ay kasama po ito sa first island chain ng bansang Amerika. Ang first island chain ay ang kanyang defensive perimeter sa Asia. At malinaw na malinaw ito sa bansang Amerika simula pa ng World War II. Actually, ang motivation sa likod ng First Island Chain ay mapanatili na ang Pacific Ocean ay American Lake. Ito ay sinabi ni US President Dwight Eisenhower noong 1954 na ang Pacific Ocean should always remain an American lake. At kung makikita natin sa kasaysayan, tuwing may nagcha-challenge sa Amerika sa dominance niya sa Pacific Ocean o sa Pacific area, nagkakaroon ng gera. Yan ang katotohanan dyan. Ikalawa, ang sinasabi kanina po na hindi po yung tungkol po sa Pilipinas magiging target pagdating magkaroon ng gera. Actually, naging concern na po ito ng mga Pilipino noon pa, kahit noong nininegotiate po ang Philippine independence noong 1940s. At ang sinasabi nila na ang presensya ng base militar sa ating bansa ay malubhang mapanganib sa atin. At kung hindi nyo po nalalaman, noong ang EDCA ay na-expand na, ito po ay ipinagdiwang ng mga Amerikano. At tahasan nilang sinabi na ang additional EDCA sites ay magpo-provide ng additional targeting challenge sa China. Ano yung ibig sabihin nitong targeting challenge? Ibig sabihin, mas magiging komplikado na ang magiging gera at imbes na ang magiging target lang ng China ay ang base ng Amerika sa Guam, Okinawa, ay makakasama na tayo dito. So, ito po ang katotohanan dyan at ito'y pinag-uusapan sa US media. So, ayun lang po, Madam Chairwoman. Maraming salamat.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Loha, please.
Thank you po. If it pleases your honors, I'd like to respond to the question raised. Earlier whether the Philippine territory where there are agreed EDCA sites could be a legitimate target in case of a war, declared or undeclared, between the United States, North Korea, Russia, Iran, or China. And my answer is yes. Under the Caroline test, which was adopted by the military tribunals in the Nuremberg trial, and which is now part of the law of warfare, a territory of a neutral state, such as the EDCA sites in Northern Luzon, which is a location of stockpiles of weapons or weapon systems of a belligerent state, such as, for instance, the United States, can be a target, a legitimate military target of another belligerent state, such as China, North Korea, Russia, or Iran. And under EDCA, Article 4, in particular, paragraph 1, the United States has the right, unmitigated right, to stockpile not just supplies, equipment, or material for humanitarian aid, but military weapons. And the Philippines has no control over the type of weapons that will be stockpiled in EDCA sites. And this is because Article 4 only provides for notification and approval as to the quantity and schedule of delivery. Unlike other EDCA provisions with Poland, for instance, Bulgaria, and Australia, there are express provisions in their EDCAs calling for the prior notification and consent of the host government as to the type of weapons that will be stockpiled in EDCA sites. There is no such provision in our EDCA with the US. In fact, under Article 4, paragraph 2, the US has the right to impose, has unimpeded rights over the EDCA sites where there are stockpiles of weapons, and they have use and ownership of those weapons. That use and ownership would justify a belligerent state making an attack on an EDCA site in the Philippines where there are US weapon stockpiles. Finally, in 2019, the United States withdrew from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Under that treaty, the United States forswore to develop and stockpile what are known as ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles with ranges of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. Therefore, under the present regime, the United States is no longer prevented from developing and stockpiling those weapons, including in EDCA sites in northern Luzon or in my own province, Cagayan de Oro. Thank you.
Yes, if I may, you said unimpeded use and ownership. I think our authorities here will contest that. It's only operational control and not discussion of ownership, with all due respect, Dr. Loja, that we read in EDCA. Yes, doctor, please.
Sorry, it is operational. It is not just operational
It's
control.
operational control, I think, is the language utilized,
Yes, but it
not
is
ownership.
with respect to the materials.
The material is
Stockpile.
exclusive ownership, that is correct, the material.
Yes.
But the actual site does not involve any transfer
Yes,
of
but
ownership.
paragraph 4 also provides that they have unimpeded access.
That's correct.
To locations where they have the materials that they own. So once it is unimpeded, there is no right on the part of the Philippines to say that with respect to that particular site where you have stockpiles of weapons, we can say that we can control your access to it because the provision itself provides that their access will be unimpeded.
Yes, but if you look at the rest of the agreement, as discussed earlier, the perimeter and the actual buildings following the construction phase are inexorably Filipino. They're belonging to us. I think Yusek Galvez is wanting to explain, and after that, Mr. Renato Reyes.
I would like to express that all activities to be undertaken under EDCA will have to be approved by the Philippines through MDB-SCB. So there is some sort of prior consent, meaning all activities that will be undertaken at EDCA will be planned. Normally, ma'am, meron po kami mga 14 days na planning dun sa Hawaii, and sometimes dito sila pumupunta. Doon po namin ginagawa lahat ng activities. Kaya po, na-identified namin po yung mga 500 activities and trainings. And also, iniisa-isa po namin yung mga tinatawag na weapons na pwedeng i-allow with our consent. Especially, ang ano po natin, prohibition natin is talagang yung nuclear, hindi po pwede po yun based on our constitution. And second, under EDCA, before any construction or other activities can be undertaken, prior consent of the Philippines will be to be secured through the Mutual Defense Board and Security Engagement Board, which were established under the MDT and the BFA. The AP base commander will have access to the entire area of facilities shared with the U.S., and the Philippines will also own any building and similar infrastructure that will be built by the U.S. military.
Yes, thank you, Yusek Galvez. Some aspects of this and the working details were discussed by Senator De La Rosa and myself during the executive briefing. So indeed, there are questions that have arisen about these provisions. Mr. Reyes, please.
Magandang hapon po, Madam Chair. Yung EDCA po is more about U.S. power projection than any humanitarian aid or disaster response. Marami hong bansa na tumulong sa atin ng panahon ng Yolanda, pero US lang po ang humingi na magkaroon ng base militar sa ating bansa. Ang amin pong mga objections na kaangkla doon sa pagiging masyadong malawak ng kasunduan. Sa EDCA po, walang sinasabi kung hanggang ilan ang sundalong Amerikanong pwedeng pumasok. Walang sinasabi hanggang ilang pasilidad ang pwedeng i-construct sa ating bansa. Wala ring sinasabing duration hanggang kailan pwedeng gamitin ang mga pasilidad na ito. Very open-ended po. So, theoretically, the entire country pwedeng mag-host ng different facilities sa lahat ng mga probinsya at rehiyon. Mabigat din po para sa bansa natin ito. Sa EDCA po, libre ang paggamit ng mga facilities na ito. And when the US forces and their contractors use our utilities, they will be tax exempt. Yung pagbabayad ng buwis sa utilities is for the account of the Philippine government. There is no modernization here because the prepositioned material will be for the exclusive use of the US forces, not shared use with the Philippine forces. And the US will have unencumbered right, the unencumbered right to remove any of their material, their weapons, their vehicles from Philippine territory at any time that they wish. So yung sinasabing lahat ng activities dapat approved, paano ho kung nagpalipad sila ng drone mula sa Pilipinas at maging cause ng international incident at madadamay sa pag-escalate ng tensyon? Ano hong sagutin natin doon at mapipigilan ba natin sila na palaparin yung drone mula sa Philippine facilities? So lahat pong ito magkakaladkad po sa atin sa isang conflict na hindi natin kagustuhan, wala sa ating interest, at mabigat yung magiging social cost nito down the line kapag hindi natin po binigyan ng kaanumang parameters kung hanggang saan, hanggang kailan sila pwedeng manatili dito. For all intents and purposes po, open-ended to, open-ended forever po pwede silang manatili, no, sa ating bansa.
Yes, Senator Pimentel?
Wala na po. I will just have to process everything that we have learned today.
Yes, that's right. Yusek Galvez and thereafter Dr. Loha.
As I have said earlier, yung access nila talagang yan, merong mutual yan, consent yan. Every activities may mutual consent. And even siguro I've been working with the US for so long a time dito sa Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi. Actually, nung dati, nandun sila sa Sulu, malaking basis nila doon rotational. 6 months. Pero nung nawala na yung tinatawag natin threat doon, tsaka yung Busiyap, nawala na rin sa Basilan, nawala na rin yung sa dito sa area ng Sulu and even Tawi-Tawi. And yung Jesotop noon, napakalaki yan. It's sometimes maabot ng thousands yan. But right now, they are only maintaining 500. Pero sa totoo lang, Sir Renato, ang daming sundalo ko na nabuhay because of their and even 10 of their people were ambushed in Sulu. Marami akong during joint operations namin, 39 people ang na-save nila kasi sila lang kasi may night flying capability at saka yung first time ko nakita na sinaksakan na sa dibdib, nabuhay yung fatally wounded ko na tao. And ganun yung ating mission sa EDCA na we want to prepare our people na magkaroon ng talagang tinatawag natin. Kung titingnan nyo naman yung MDT maybe Sir Coco, nakita natin doon, based doon sa MDT because we just came from war noong 1951. Basically, ang doon is peaceful resolution of conflict. Ang laging nakalagay doon, collective defense. Meaning our main imperative there, considering that we renounce war, ang ating ginagawa lang is for the purposes na we are ready to deter and respond. So, yun lang natin doon.
Yes, Yusek, gusto ko lang tumbukin yung sinabi ni Mr. Reyes dahil sang-ayon po ako at maliwanag sa ilalim ng EDCA, all preposition material will be owned exclusively by the US. Maliwanag rin na halos sa buntot lamang yung disaster preparedness, wala naman na totoong ganon. Doon sa experience natin sa modernization, ang natitira sa atin yung EDA lamang, yung mga tira-tirang truck at kung ano-anong bulok na. So, ang tanong, kung ihahambing natin itong EDCA natin sa mga narinig na natin, na bilyon-bilyon binibigay sa Israel, bilyon-bilyon binibigay sa Taiwan at South Korea, anong kapalit ng ating peligro na dito sa EDCA sites, dati man o karagdagan? May kapalit ba to? What are we getting in return? Only the permanent structures that they can take with them? What are these structures? Can't the Philippines just build them on their own? We have these military bases anyway.
Can we have J5 to answer considering that?
J5, please.
Yes, ma'am. I think I need also to process most of the information that are being discussed this afternoon. Well, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there have been a lot of benefits already in our relationship with the US, and the FMF funding that we are receiving every year is helping us.
But you know, of course, that the
capability
FMS
development.
funding is a
Yes,
drop in the bucket compared to the others that have been
Yes, ma'am.
used as locations by the US.
Yes, ma'am. Probably we're not similarly situated. There are actually some interest that they have in those countries. They also have some interest in our country, and I'm sorry, but I cannot fathom the intent of what they have with Israel or Philippines. So
Palit ang
probably,
peligro eh, di ba?
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Eh, di ba sa Israel, bilyon-bilyon.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So,
At si Senator Pimentel po.
Yung manlaman technology na nakasave sa tao na saksak sa puso, na i-transfer ba sa atin yun?
Yes, sir.
Yung
Actually,
kaalaman at kagamitan
yes,
para doon?
yes, sir. Actually, sir, kung makita natin, I would like to, yung ibang yung sa Marawi, I've been the commander of Marawi. Yung binigay sa atin training, yung LRC, yun ang Delta Force nila dati eh. Alam niyo ma'am, yun ang pinaka-best natin na talagang nakita namin na napakagandang contribution ng ginagawa nating military training. Second, yung lahat ng ating mga combat natin, casualty before, kahit na may tama sa ulo, nabubuhay because of those trainings. Very extensive. Ma'am, yung iba binibigay talaga nila at saka yung iba naman talagang yung mga talagang yung tinatawag natin yung during the Marawi, meron silang 14 na tao na kasama namin doon. Nawunded pa nga yung isa eh. Ang ginagawa nila is continuous binibigay kasi bawal sa kanilang maki-fight directly. So ang ginagawa nila yung mga sniper, sila ang nagte-train.
Na-expose nga tayo sa capabilities nila,
Yes.
sa gadgets nila, sa ano nila, pero capable na ba tayo? Capable na ba tayo doon? Sa example niyo po, General.
Yes, yung iba, in some extent, ang natin talaga, yung skills, nag-upgrade tayo ng skills. Talagang napakalaki ng in-upgrade natin. Based, including the individual equipment and technology. And also the night vision goggles.
Kasi magawa yun, Madam Chair, kung siguro may chemicals pa siguro doon na kasama eh. Na
Actually,
may
mga
inject
plasma,
siguro.
yung mga plasma, yung
Anyway,
mga ganun talagang binibigay nila.
Just an example, no? But that means that we are easier to please than the other countries na ilang billions, $100 billion sa mga...
That's why their commitment right now is right away, binigay nila sir sa atin yung $100 million. But I believe, $1 million, and then they said that, yun nga ang inano sa amin ni Austin, his promise that we will modernize the alliance. Yun ang ano niya, modernize the alliance. But I believe, yun ang ano namin, hopefully, pati yung, kasi ma'am, ako rin, na pumunta sa akin yun, yung kanilang director ng DCS, CA. Yung mismong defense...
Yung night vision, hindi naman 150 billion US katulad ng Israel.
Pero very malaki rin na yun na talagang equipment transfer sa atin yun. Very very useful.
Yes, Senator De La Rosa, please.
Ma'am, dagdag ko lang kay Secretary Galvez, ma'am, na hindi lang naman tayo nakinabang din doon sa Marawi Siege, kundi pati yung Amerika rin, nag-transfer din tayo ng technology sa kanila. Doon sila natuto na yung armor pala, yung diskarte ng Pinoy, yung mga tangkidigira natin, nilagyan ng mga kahoy, additional armorizing, additional armor doon sa tangke natin against sir, yung RPG. Against RPG. So, tunto ang Amerikano doon, natuto sila sa ingenuity ng Pinoy na pwede pala ganun. Vulnerability ng armored assets natin ay madidecrease through Pinoy ingenuity. Yung kahoy, nilalagyan ng mga kahoy na ordinary kahoy lang. Maganda po yung experience yun. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Ambassador Yabes, former USEC of DFA. I think you had a statement. He was assigned for a long period of time in Shanghai and is familiar with China.
Madam, Ma'am, I will be in Malacanang for the Prime Minister. May be allowed to.
Correct. Yes, you want to go ahead. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine. And General Centino?
General Centino is here, also our USEC from
Okay.
the DND.
I think we'll have to be winding down, so thank you very much for participating, gentlemen. The rest of you, if you could stay, we'd be grateful. This is not going to go on very long because we all have session. Ambassador Yabes, please.
Yes, I'd just like to make a very short comment on the EDCA. The EDCA, which is supposed to be uh, uh, an executive agreement, it should be terminated, okay? And a new agreement should be negotiated with the Americans. But there should be no foreign forces here in the Philippines. We can ask for more assistance. We can train our people to defend themselves. We could improve our.
Aren't the foreign forces governed by VFA and not
No,
EDCA?
we have to have this clarified. The visiting forces agreement is a status of forces agreement. It is a SOFA. It is supposed to give us criminal jurisdictions over the foreign soldiers who commit crimes here against our nationals. As you know, even with the military, with Clark and Subic during those times, when they were here, there was no SOFA. Okay? That's why the Americans who were committing crimes were just being sent back to the United States. Okay? Well, the American laws will apply to them, not our laws. However, with the BFA, we now have, so long as we tell the Americans we are interested in this case, then we have jurisdiction. That is the functions of the function of the BFA. But when it was being negotiated, they included other things. However, that is basically a SOFA, a status of forces agreement. That's why we were able to get Daniel Smith, Pemberton, remember that? The cases against these Americans. That's the function of BFA. But EDCA, you should read EDCA. Okay? I don't have to say anything on
Saying that no foreign forces
no foreign force.
in the Philippines.
No, what I'm saying is
Can I
this.
expound on that, given that that's not squarely under EDCA only, but also under the VFA?
No, yes, the foreign forces agreement, the foreign forces being sent here, that can come here, can be done through, if that's the wish of the president, then they could come in. They don't have to have an agreement on this. Under international law, the foreign forces who are here on official are supposed to be treated like you cannot impose Philippine laws on them. The laws that will apply to them are, of course, foreign laws. Their laws, their own laws, the American laws or the laws of that country. However, so they can come in anytime. The reason when this VFA was being, remember, we just removed the bases there then in 1990 or 1992, something like that. And there was a new administration, and we wanted to improve our relationship with the United States. At that time, it was really, really bad, I tell you. I was there, okay? It's really, really bad. When we told them we don't need the Clark and Subic anymore. On a personal note, I didn't want them to leave. But then the Senate did not ratify the agreement for the extension of the military bases. So they were told to leave. It was really a bad time for our relationship with the United States. However, with the new administration that after Ms. Aquino came, President Ramos wanted better relationship. That's why he came up with this Balikatan. And the Balikatan, when the Americans agreed with the Balikatan, Secretary Siason, then the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, says, we cannot have a Balikatan unless there is a SOFA. Okay? And the SOFA is the VFA. Keep that in mind. That's why the SOFA is very important. And then came this EDCA. For what reason, I don't understand. However, when this was being negotiated, I'll tell you this, my personal experience. When this was being negotiated, the DFA person who was heading it did not agree. He was having a difficult time agreeing to the demands of the Americans. And so he was removed because President Obama was coming in already. And there must be something to be signed with the Americans. And we gave everything. And para sa atin lang to, ano? We were called to Malacanang. Pinagalitan kami ng presidente. Si Pinoy, pinagalitan kami. Sabi nga nung, pati ba naman kuryente, babayaran natin? We didn't ask anything from the Americans. We gave everything to them. That's the only thing I can say. Kaya, ngayon, nagbibigay. Tagal, no? Di ba? 10 years, wala silang ginawa. Tapos yung nagkaroon ng Scarborough. Oh, nasan sila? Di ba? Ayun lang naman. Ayun lang. Simple-simple. Tapos kinakalaban yung mga inchik ngayon. Tayo na naman yung sinaharap. Bakit natin hindi improve na sarili natin? If the Americans will continue, keep in mind that when the military bases were here, the U.S. bases were here, Clark and Subic, we were receiving at that time $200 million every year. At that time, malaki yun. That's why we had the Philippine Air Force at that time. We had tayo kinakaingitan ng buong Asia noon. Kasi yung ating armed forces was highly equipped, highly trained. And then when we told them to get out, unti-unti nawala ang atin. As mamaya, wala na Air Force. Wala na yung Blue Diamonds. May kaibigan pa ako dyan noon na namatay sa Blue Diamonds. Wala na rin. Wala na. Tapos, unti-unti, dumarating na yung mga fisherman nila. Oh, anong ginagawa nyo? Wala. Wala Kunyari, binigay natin yung EDCA, pero may hiningi tayo sa kanila. Kagaya ng hinihingi ng ibang countries ng Israel, ng Pakistan, 2 billion annually. Sabi nga nung kaibigan kong Pakistani, before our military, they were just using jeeps. Now they're using BMWs. Okay, that's the only thing I can say. Terminate EDCA, negotiate for a new deal with America. We love the Americans, to tell you frankly. Okay? We build on what America has given us, or whatever we have. And with China, let's treat them like a neighbor. Diba? Kapitbahay natin yan Mawawala ba sa atin yan? Nandiyan palagi yan. Huwag mo aawayin. The way to treat the Chinese is treating them using their cultural yan Guangxi. Okay? If you understand Guangxi, then you can deal with the Japanese, the Chinese, the Koreans. In a way, it's not like dealing with the Americans are different. Kultura lang yan Diba? Kultura lang. Huwag kayo magiging, alam mo, mga ilong natin mga bilog Diba? Hindi matatangos, bilog. Tignan mo yung mga kapitbahay natin. Ganun din ang mga ilong, bilog.
Thank you. Thank you, Yusek Yaven.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, I think Sinait is also in the firing line. So there we have it. I'm going to have to wind down this simply because we have an all Senate caucus ongoing right now. I'm late. However, I'm very grateful for the paper submitted by Dr. Loha. I'm hopeful that all our other academics and resource persons will also submit their opinion, their thoughts, their additional information, like Mr. C. And I'm hopeful that also the AFP can continuously update us with regard to EDCA, as well as the DFA. Given that the opportunity for amendment or even a new agreement poses itself next year, so we should be ready. In the meantime, the military, if you could also finally help us, together with Governor Mamba, understand what exactly we have done to prepare. There are 200,000 Filipinos in Taiwan. How are we going to evacuate every single one of them? There is not one bomb shelter in all of northern Luzon. How will we protect and defend our people? We have no underground camp in the entire AFP. How do we propose to get involved in warfare? There are no cyber security or other command control efforts. We have no air defense. We have no drones, and we are waiting for the Americans to deliver those promised. There's anti-tank, Javelin. I don't see any. We have so many issues with the STAR and the satellite. Where are all these thermal imaging requisites to defend our territory? The entire AFP has no anti-aircraft. There are no efforts at establishing sea mines for ammunition and so on. I think the Navy is better aware of that than I am, but we are alarmed at the prospect of war and our abject unpreparedness for any kind of attack. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And with that, I suspend this hearing. Thank you.